Alright guys, you're going to have to kind of follow along. I am picking up the phone, pretty, not too deep into it. I started it yesterday, but maybe it's going to be interesting. Didn't know if I was going to film this one or not. Basically, it'll sometimes stall at low speed, like parking lot maneuvering and turning the wheel. It'll just stall, all lights stay on, the engine will stall. And then it's just a hard, like hot soak cranking. You have to give it throttle for it to finally like kick over. It'll just crank. It's that hot soak type of crank. I know that this has an incorrect part numbered fuel pump, and that's what check engine light has been on for a while, but it was only a fuel pump code, and I'll show you that, but it never was acting the way that it is now. Now the reason why I know is this is one of our vehicles, our personal vehicles, and my wife will drive this sometimes, or I'll drive it. And so for over a year we've had this fuel pump. We have the correct one. I didn't know there was that many options, whatever. It's the correct one sitting waiting to be put in, but it's never acted like this. So what else it does, it's like it's got a bunch of things going on. It will run rough, like at idle, very, very stumbly, like just rough. Right now, it seemed to stabilize. So I was going around the block, and it started getting real rough and almost shutting down. I hope we didn't lose the data. I bet we did. I'll have to capture it. So I used one bullet. I'll be transparent. And what I mean by that is I threw primary O2 sensors in it, because yesterday when I was scoping it, okay, perfect. I think we still got it. The O2s looked a little lazy, and there was, or still stored, bank 1 rich and bank 1 lean. So just for whatever, I threw 2 factory O2 primary sensors in it, and that is what I am now testing and driving today, taking a look at everything. So I've got the primary O2s here. This is intake manifold. This is fuel pressure. So I wanted to watch fuel pressure again because of the fuel pump trouble code, and seeing if that was dropping out when it stalls. The manifold pressure I wanted to look at because there was a code for low vacuum. And right here, this picture here, so let's forget this stuff up top, because I think I finally am getting somewhere. It's just a difficult diagnosis. So fuel pressure, it's staying at 51. Now I think that's lower than what it needs to be, and what's weird, when I accelerate, the fuel pressure drops, gets lower. Again, yeah, probably not right, but when it stalls, I did capture a stall. I, by mistake, hit play instead of save. The fuel pressure did not drop. We did not lose fuel pressure. And when cranking, I was trying the hot soak crank. Again, fuel pressure was present. So I'm beginning to think that it's not fully related to fuel pressure being missing or dropping out. This portion here, I'm at idle, and look at the manifold vacuum pressure. So let's go to the next page, where I gave it some gas, and so it went up, and then it dropped down to deep vacuum. I accelerated again a little bit, and then just let off, and then we drop down to vacuum. We should be idling in vacuum. Let's go. So right here, I'm staying idling. So this is where I picked up the camera. Forgot that it was still going. And let's see. So at idle. So 9.5, so 19 inches of vacuum. Fuel pressure still holding. But if we go back to where it was really stumbling, right here, it was doing like a funky stumble, but prior to that and after, what were we idling at? 3 psi, so 6 inches of vacuum. And I could tell it was getting real rough. And so, but fuel pressure is staying. We're still switching O2s. I think we're losing control of air, clearly. And so I think this is the direction we're going to have to go in. Let me save this and then bring you back on board, maybe try to show you what it does. All right, we are saved. Let's go ahead and start over. So you can tell, because it's back to not rough, and it's a come and go. So we're back to good vacuum, let's call it. And let's just put a reference mark there. And so we lose vacuum when I accelerate, clearly. So we'll raise up. That's when I know I'm giving it throttle, fuel pressure, whatever. So let's drive. So you can tell. I'm just going light throttle. See, we're losing vacuum. The more we accelerate, the switching of O2s gets faster. I just obviously let off when we lost vacuum, and then it recovered. So it's on its own, trying to hold and stabilize the idle. Now I'm turning, and now a little bit of throttle. Off the pedal. Okay, stop. So let's go ahead and turn. So I'm making the same rounds. Hopefully I can get it to act up again. I would love for it to stall. I got it to stall once while I was scoping, and then I freaking lost that capture. Off. I'm gonna come this slow down and turn to the right. No throttle, just brake. Okay, back on the gas. And we go a little deep on it. So let off. This is it's hard one-handed here, but this is where it started running rough after I gave it a good power, and it's starting to stumble. Look at where we're so supposedly 500 RPM. We don't have vacuum. Our O2s are stabilizing a little there. Fuel pressure is still going, so we're stumbling right now. It's hard to convey that, but this right there, it tells us we're not idling properly. And my foot's on the brake. So I'm going to try to go around the corner. This is where I started recording when I made the turn. So look, still terrible vacuum. Let's go ahead. And I'm off. And it normally in drive it would move it by itself, but it's moving real slow. It's chugging. It's like misfiring. Now I don't want to give it too much gas and kind of fix it, let's call it, or get it back to good. So we're still just chugging along, just barely moving, and I'm going to try and give it some gas. Off. I think I'm gonna pull into the shop and start trying to do some research. I would love to get a stall capture, but it's a little bit difficult. Let's see. Sometimes again, parking lot maneuvering will stall it. Reverse. Nothing. And it's back to a good vacuum, I think. Alright, let's go in the shop, do some research. Idle is almost about the same, but with good vacuum. So RPM pretty much the same level, but again, our vacuum level's different. Alright guys, so here's it's a second capture, but it's the same thing, it's just at idle. And to break down the channels, I'm watching, this is the crank, this is the cam, this is TPS, this is intake manifold pressure, then we've got duty cycle for the magnet or solenoid, amperage for the same solenoid, and then the block ground. Right now, what I am concerned with is our cam and crank. Clearly when we start, that's at this point, so it was key on, and then once we build up these solid points and drop down our manifold, that's when we cranked it over and started the engine. That is what I want to look at, but our throttle stayed the same, our TPS, and then which matches that there, our manifold. And so I want to compare an identifiable point for the relationship between these two and see where that's at for a reference point for me. So I don't know where it's supposed to be as far as cam crank correlation or the alignment between the two. I started looking at it, but I then wanted to see and know and compare, since it's at idle, what it's really supposed to be at base timing, let's call it. Now, I don't know if where I'm at now at idle is with some variable cam interface where it is trying to phase or not. So that's why I wanted to check the base timing, and this is at cranking. And so what I did simply, since I was connected to everything, just did a clear flood. You could tell there's the throttle blade all the way to the floor, and then cranked it over. This will get you crank no start situation. It takes away intake vacuum. As you can tell, we did not dip in our purple, but it at least lets you do a quick rough crank no start if you want to take a capture or listen to the engine. And so because of that, I want to look at an identifiable point, as I said, first at base timing. And so what I did, and what I like to do usually, is at the beginning, somewhere in the middle, and the end. If they match, I'm okay. If I see some sort of variance, then I'll look at more spots. So right now here at the beginning, the point that I've found to be easy to match up is this guy here. So let's back out a little bit. We got 2 small uprise and 2 big ones, and they repeat. So this one that stands out by itself kind of lines up close to a sync notch on the crank. If we take a look, sync notch, sync notch, sync notch. And so there's that one guy there. So I'm just simply picking that point between the two as an identifying spot. And so what you can do at this point is take your scope rulers or markers, whatever you want to call them, and then just pick 2 spots, one on the crank, one on the cam. And so I'm picking both uprise, and so it's close enough, and I'm getting 23 milliseconds. But the other thing to look at is where comparison. So that's in time, but we are cranking. If the uprise lines up almost right at the second tooth in uprise. So if you keep that in mind, that's what we want to identify across the board. And I looked at different portions of the waveform, and I don't even think I need to do in time, but just to show you for good comparison. So now we're 26 in time, but look at where it's landing right there, about the same spot. So I'm not concerned or worried right now that there's an issue. So the reason why behind I do this is because in the past I've had a variable cam phaser be moved during cranking, and so that can be that the gear's not locking, or the one I had was that the solenoid pintle valve, the spool valve, was stuck in a certain position that let oil be directed to the cam gear phaser, and it moved the cam as I cranked it. So that means that at the beginning it was at its home place, let's call it, and the longer I cranked, oil pressure moved in and it moved the phaser, and so I could see that shift when I compared the two. So that's what you want to do. You want to look at making sure an identifiable point is the same all throughout cranking, and that tells us that is our base timing. Like when you install a timing chain, you spin the engine over and you set timing and all that. That is what we are looking at. That is our basis for everything mechanical with mechanical timing. So that's why I look at that cranking. And then we compare that to running. And I'll do the same somewhere here in the middle. Look for the same exact spot. The guy in the middle as far as the cam. And I'll tell you right now, in time, I think it's different, but So a lot different in time, and we're lined up pretty much the same uprise of that second. Looks like it's a little early, but definitely close enough from the first time. Now let's lock these rulers here, because that's what we're going to use throughout the whole cranking event. Let's go somewhere in the middle. Bring these guys over, and if it's good, it should match up. Well, look at that. I was not expecting that. So, wow. All right, so our time obviously stays the same because we're locked. But look at our uprise. Actually, nope, I am mistaken. So it has to do with RPM creating a difference. So if you lock them, they can make it look different. So again, all right, we almost thought we had a problem, but that's kind of what you would like to see if there is a problem, is a difference in where it lands. But again, still right there. So no problem as of yet. Nothing that's concerning. Let's go towards the end. Again, just pick random spots. If it's good mechanically throughout the whole time cranking, then it should not change or vary that much. Let's get rid of that and bring it over. So again, this is now at idle. And compared to crank base timing, I'm not too concerned. I'm not concerned that our variable cam gear is not locked, not controlled, mechanically having issues or any of that while cranking or at idle with higher oil pressure. Cam cranks are staying the same the whole time, cranking and idle for right now. Now let's get this hot. Let's drive around and try to get it to act up. So I'm going to drive around. If I get anything, or once I get it to act up, I'll bring you guys back along. Okay, it just stalled. I've got the scanner also simultaneous. I just put it back in neutral because I had to restart it. I had to get off of the road, pull in this parking lot. Maybe I'll catch the hard start. Let's see. There, crank, stall. Let's see. Supposedly right now we've got it's far away. So let's. So it's not. I'm gonna give it some throttle. Now that came back. So that was me giving it throttle, trying to get it to crank up. Let me save this waveform. All right, we're running. Let's see if we can get anywhere. So it's acting up pretty good right now. All right, guys. So perfect. We got it to where we're running rough. We've lost vacuum. Let's see. Our data says we're okay. Variance, there's not a great variance. So look, again, loss of vacuum. It's kind of stuttering, stumbling. Let's go around the corner, same place. So this is the same spot that we keep ending. Let me wait for this car to go by. So we're getting no duty cycle, obviously, so we're not trying to command or move. We have no vacuum or throttle still there. Let's try to inch up. So I gave it a real tiny bit of throttle. That's where we lost that, but our scanner's not just telling us that our cam's stuck. So we're still just creeping along, just barely moving. I'm gonna give it some gas. And I stalled. Trying to turn. According to that, we were far out, so we have stalled. And I'll show you the hard start again. No start. No start. This is without throttle. I'm holding the key. That's odd. Just holding the key, I tried to control the cam. Finally, when I gave it some air, and now we stalled again. So it's funny, it'll stall, engine spins a little bit, then it drops the RPM. Let's give it some... Oh snap, I'm giving it throttle and still not. There, finally. Alright, let's get back in the shop. We'll take a look at the scope. This information here is straight from GM's literature about how the variable cam timing system kind of works for them on this engine. But basically, in that highlighted portion, you can pause and read upon yourselves. But basically, it tells us that this camshaft locked parked is all the way advanced. And then anytime there is duty cycle control, it's going to move it back and delay it or retard the timing of the camshaft, which affects both intake and exhaust simultaneous. And then when it starts releasing duty, it'll bring it back to the most advanced position. And so it is its way of advancing at that time. So it starts fully advanced and then it gets commanded in the delayed or retard position. And that's basically what I'm showing you here, which will pertain into the next analyzation portion of the waveforms. All right, guys, so this is this waveform that we just gathered when I was having troubles with it idling and then stalling. So let's go back. What I first want to show you, so that's when it was running rough. Right here was sort of still kind of normal. The area that I want to present to you is this where there is duty cycle. We already know what our cam signals should look like when it is operating good and normal, and that's the identifiable point. So right there, matching at the second tooth upright. So let's take a look at this area right here. Again, this is solenoid duty cycle, which means that we should have camshaft movement happening because of the command that we can see. And so right now, that identifiable point is no longer here. It has moved to the right. If you remember, I explained, and the literature explains, when there is duty control right there in the green, it's going to move the camshaft over to the right, which we clearly can see that. Now, let's count these bottom teeth, let's call it. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Let's call it 11. So it has moved to the 11th tooth. That was somewhere there in the middle, at a good portion of where the throttle is pressed, and we're cruising, let's call it. We'll check one more spot again in our duty control section. Let's see. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. About the 11th, 12. So it's, I think, coming back at this point, possibly. We do see a change in throttle, so I requested more throttle right here. So if it is moving it to the left, that means it's advancing it. And we know advancing our intake helps with performance, so possibly why we saw it move a little bit to the left. But there is control going on right there. Now, okay, so since we now kind of established what it should do when there is duty cycle, how it moves to the right, let's go ahead and look at this other portion. So we have green solid here, which means duty cycles beginning. Let's take a look over here. Can pick a point. Again, there is duty cycle control. And right now with the duty, so normally it would line up around here, this second tooth, and it looks like we're only over one tooth to the right, which is different than what we saw over in this area. So let's look a little bit deeper, the further that we've gone. And again, we're still just on the third uprise here, third tooth. So we're not really moving to the right like we should when there is duty. Now, I understand the amount of duty can vary, but at that point, I believe it's the same as it was here. So as you can see, the duty is the same. That means this dictates the amount of movement. And in the known good area right here, that same duty that I just looked at matches this duty here, and our movement of the camshaft is different. It barely has moved at this point. So there's an issue going on right there. Let's continue on to the next page. Still that same portion. And still not any more movement other than one tooth. So if the computer's expecting it to move further to the right, it definitely has not. So then our air control is not what it should be. And so our fueling is not going to be correct based off of what the computer expects the cam to be bringing in as far as air. And you can tell this is an area where we lose vacuum and it starts to just idle in that stumbling, rough running, almost stalling portion, and it just maintains that. so we lose vacuum. That's where I was capturing on video. But let's take a look, see what the cam's doing. So we know it was only one tooth over. There's still some command there, but it looks like maybe at this point I let off of the throttle. Actually, yes, correct, because right here, remember, lower means the gas pedal was down, and when I let off the gas pedal, the blade starts to close, so it moved up. So then I did, when this dips down to vacuum, I did release the gas pedal, and so then that should be where we should go and stay at idle. But we didn't. Look what happened. We lost the vacuum. And that's where we maintained the throttle to try to stay at normal idling, but physically our engine was not idling normal. Again, I keep over explaining that we have lost vacuum. So let's look and see where we were when we let off. Still at the same spot. We're here. And look at that. We've got movement. So we went from, so we were here at the third tooth up. And now let's count the bottom one. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We're at the seventh tooth. We have moved to the right with no duty cycle command. This is the marked point where we were moved over to the right. We know we're supposed to only move when we get duty cycle. So our air is uncontrollable right now. And you could tell or see as we were running rough, for some reason the computer tried to command. And let's see, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, where we were, we're starting to move over to the right because we did command some. It was a blip of command, and right there it is acting normal. It's moving to the right, but its starting point was the seventh tooth over, and when there's no command, it should be at the second tooth. So now we're moving it over to the right. It started far off to the right. We're just all over the place, an incorrect place, and moving it further away. And that's when we get into this uncontrollable idling point. And let's see. So we were about the eighth tooth, I believe. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 teeth over. This is further than the known good area where we were running good under part throttle and fully commanded with duty. We were about the 10th tooth. Now we are jammed over, 13 teeth over our camshaft. That is wild. And it's not supposed to be anywhere near to the right because we have zero duty command. And that is making our breathing just be terrible and barely keeping that engine alive idling. That is what is going on. It's an uncontrolled cam movement and hold or jammed over issue or state that we are experiencing, and that it's what's causing that. One more look, see if we're still that far out. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Yes, we're jammed 13 teeth away. Okay, and so now let's take a look at the portion where it was the hard start. So this is what happens each time after it stalls. Now we know we get to this point of stalling because it cannot control the camshaft, or the camshaft is stuck all on its own in an incorrect position, and so our air breathing is not correct. And if we try to get the engine to stay alive, or possibly, I think when we turn and power steering probably put some demand load, then our breathing can't keep up and it stalls because our camshaft has our valves in the incorrect position, so our airflow is not correct to match the fueling and the load and the condition. So we stall. And then we get to a point where we try to crank up and get the engine started. That's these blips here. 1, 2, held it longer with the key just on. Cranked it, held it, and gave it some throttle. You could tell. And it started, but then it died. So let's see why it's such a hard start. We know what we're looking for. And this first attempt, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. It's still stuck, 13 teeth away. Let's check the second one, see if it's the same. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Same thing, that it's stuck in the wrong position. That's why we can't get the engine to start up. You can tell, since I held it longer, we're building up vacuum up against the throttle. Since I have not moved the throttle, the blade is closed, so the manifold's going into vacuum as our cylinders keep pulling on the intake. But the intake valve timing is off and incorrect. So we're not going to pull as much as we should be pulling for it to be enough air to get the engine going. But we're only getting a little bit more vacuum because I'm holding the starter engaged longer. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Same thing. So our engine does not like to be that far off from where it should be. And then here we try to give it some throttle. Let's see if we moved at all. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Still 13. But we get it to run. So at this deep vacuum pull, our engine ran. Let's see where we got it to. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. So we didn't move the cam, but because we opened our throttle blade, we ourselves helped introduce a little bit more extra air, and so it was enough to light off that mixture and get the engine to spin over, which is why we got this RPM increase, and it ran on its own, but it still wasn't good enough and it stalled. Let's see where we were, if we were still jammed far out, and it does look like it was. So not even going to count. We know our home lock position when the engine's shut off or idling should be right here. It's far off. That's why we're not maintaining it. Let's go over one more page to where I finally get it going right here. Still far out. And then, so right here, look at that. It gave it some command. That's weird. Let's see. And look, at that point, we kicked back to where our home lock position. They were still far out. Still. I think it's starting to come back maybe. See, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So it's starting to kick over to the left. It's starting to come back home, let's call it. Yeah, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So it's starting to come back home. It's shifting over to the left, which means it's advancing, which means it's going to get our intake breathing better. And so what did we do? We provided our own air right there by putting the throttle down. Helped the engine to spin over, so we got it to rotate fast. This is where it ignited all on its own. And so RPM increased. We probably got oil flow coming back up and probably getting it moved over back home to the home position, the lot position, which is 2 teeth over. I think that's what we're seeing is the increase in RPM drives our oil pump up. It's going to provide oil probably to where we need to direct it or have it. That's why we pushed it over. And now here at a good vacuum level of 20 inches, we're probably going to be back to the home position. And yep, pretty much definitely close enough to where the engine's going to act in idle normal. So everything that we're seeing and dealing with is going to be because our airflow cannot be controlled correctly. It is having a mind of its own. It's getting stuck. The camshaft is getting stuck over to the right, being delayed to where it's inhibiting the engine from ingesting the correct amount of air, which makes it run rough, eventually stalls out, and it stays stuck, and it can't start up till we give it our own amount of air to get the RPM spinning, get the oil flowing, get the cam moved back home, and then it'll run fine until it jams over to the right again. This is not a lack of fueling issue or problem. We are seeing physically that we have an air delivery, air ingestion, air removal issue problem, and it is crazy difficult to pinpoint, but we just physically seen with the scope what our cam is doing and why it's causing everything that we are seeing happen. And so just to explain potential causes of what can make this happen. So we know our variable cam is getting stuck in positions where it shouldn't, or it's losing control of its returning back to home position. First things first, check your oil level and condition. Low oil or dirty oil can make this happen. It can make the spool valve get jammed up if it has debris in it. Next, you can try to do the solenoid, camshaft adjuster solenoid. That is external to the engine. That there is a pintle in the middle that sometimes could get jammed and can keep the spool valve in an incorrect position and create what we are having. Lastly, you're probably going to have to go internal to the engine and change the actual solenoid or the spool valve rather, which goes in the middle of the camshaft gear adjuster or the phaser, which does the actual movement once it gets oil flow. Those two will be your last bit of parts that would have to be replaced if your oil or the adjuster magnet solenoid don't do the trick.